Welcome back to Today Assets Report, your go-to destination for the most critical updates in the world of digital finance and crypto markets. If you are currently holding any XRP in your portfolio, you need to sit down, clear your schedule, and pay extremely close attention to what we are about to break down because the charts are flashing a signal we haven't seen in years. We are witnessing a confluence of technical pressure and fundamental uncertainty that suggest a massive liquidity event is about to take place, and many are calling it the final death wick before the next major market cycle begins. This isn't just another dip in a volatile market. It is a structural shift that could wipe out leveraged positions and shake even the most hardened diamond hands out of their holdings if they aren't prepared for the sheer scale of the volatility that is currently knocking on our door. We've been tracking the whale movements and the exchange inflows for the last 48 hours, and the data is painting a picture that most retail investors are completely overlooking while they focus on the noise of social media. The current price action on the XRP daily and weekly charts is showing a tightening wedge that has historically preceded some of the most violent moves in the history of the asset, and the direction of that break is looking increasingly ominous in the short term. When we talk about a death wick, we are referring to that sudden, catastrophic plunge that seeks out stop losses and liquidates over-leveraged long positions in a matter of minutes, creating a massive candle shadow that leaves the market reeling. This phenomenon usually occurs right before a massive trend reversal, but the pain it inflicts on those caught on the wrong side of the trade is permanent, often resulting in total account wipeouts for those who don't have a solid risk management strategy in place. You have to understand that the market makers thrive on this kind of chaos as it allows them to scoop up massive amounts of liquidity at prices that seem impossible just hours prior, and XRP is perfectly positioned for this kind of institutional hunting ground. As we dive deeper into the technical indicators, the relative strength index is showing a bearish divergence that suggests the recent attempts at a rally were built on incredibly thin ice and lack the necessary volume to sustain any real upward momentum. If we break below the crucial support levels we've been defending for months, there is a literal vacuum of orders underneath us, which means the price could find itself in a free-fall scenario toward levels we haven't seen since the early days of the SEC litigation. It's a terrifying prospect for anyone who bought in at the recent local highs, but it's the reality of a market that is currently being squeezed by macroeconomic pressures and a lack of clear regulatory resolution that everyone was banking on by now. The hopium that has fueled the community for so long is starting to wear thin as the reality of the chart structure takes center stage, and the bears are smelling blood in the water as they prepare for a final push. If you look at the order books across major exchanges like Binance and Coinbase, you can see a significant buildup of sell orders just above the current price, acting as a ceiling that the bulls simply cannot break through without a massive catalyst. At the same time, the buy-side liquidity is looking incredibly shallow, which is the perfect recipe for a flash crash or a death wick to occur because there aren't enough buyers to absorb a sudden sell-off from a frustrated whale. We have seen several large wallets moving significant portions of XRP onto exchanges over the last few days, which is usually a leading indicator that someone is getting ready to hit the exit button or, at the very least, provide the collateral necessary to hedge against a massive downward move. This kind of movement shouldn't be ignored because these players often have access to information and market sentiment data that the average retail investor simply doesn't see until it's far too late. The sentiment across the XRP army is currently a mix of defiant optimism and quiet desperation, which is exactly the kind of emotional environment where these massive wick events tend to manifest themselves most effectively. Many people are convinced that a settlement or a final ruling is just around the corner, and while that might be true in the long run, the short-term price action doesn't care about your long-term thesis when liquidations start cascading through the system. We've seen this movie before where the hype reaches a fever pitch only for the market to do the exact opposite of what the majority expects, punishing those who are most certain of a moonshot in the immediate future. It is absolutely vital that you look at your position sizes right now and ask yourself if you can survive a 30 to 40% drop in price in a single hourly candle, because that is the level of volatility we are potentially staring down. I want to be very clear that being aware of a death wick doesn't mean you have to be bearish on the long-term utility of the ledger or the future of Ripple as a company, but it does mean being realistic about the path of most pain. The path of most pain right now is a sharp move downward to clear out the latecomers and the speculators who are playing with money they can't afford to lose, as this is the standard operating procedure for a market that is preparing for a true sustainable breakout. Think of it as a forest fire that clears out the dead wood so that new growth can finally take hold. It's painful to watch while it's happening, but it's a necessary part of the market cycle that we have to navigate with extreme caution and a level head. If you're just sitting there hoping that everything will be fine without checking your levels, you are essentially gambling with your financial future in an environment that is designed to take it from you. We are also seeing a massive shift in the Bitcoin dominance chart, which is sucking the life out of altcoins and leaving assets like XRP vulnerable to these high volatility sweeps that can happen during the overnight trading sessions. When Bitcoin shows any sign of weakness or even sideways consolidation, the altcoin market often overreacts, and because XRP has such a massive market cap and so many retail eyes on it, the moves are magnified significantly. This impending wick could be the result of a sell the news event or simply a technical correction that has been building up since the last failed attempt to break the $1 psychological barrier. Every time we touch that resistance and fall back, the support underneath gets a little bit weaker, and we are currently testing a floor that has been hit so many times it's starting to show major structural cracks that won't hold much longer. The psychological impact of a death wick cannot be overstated, as it often forces people to sell at the very bottom out of pure fear, only to watch the price bounce back aggressively just minutes after they've exited their position. This is why we call it a must-see for anyone owning XRP, because if you aren't mentally prepared for the sight of a massive red candle cutting through your portfolio value, you will make an emotional decision that you will regret for the rest of your life. The key to surviving this is to have your plan in place before the chaos starts, knowing exactly where your exit points are or having the capital ready to buy the dip if you believe the bounce will be as sharp as the drop. Most people will do neither. They will simply freeze up in terror as the numbers on their screen turn deep red, and that is exactly how the institutions want you to react so they can take your coins on the cheap. Taking a look at the historical data for XRP during previous market cycles, we often see these shakeout events right before a massive multi-month rally begins, which is why some veteran traders are actually looking forward to the death wick. They see it as the final hurdle to clear before the road to all-time highs is finally open, but you have to be able to survive the hurdle to enjoy the race that comes after it. The problem is that this time the global economic backdrop is much more complex, with interest rates and geopolitical tensions adding layers of risk that didn't exist in 2017 or 2021, making the current setup even more dangerous. You cannot simply rely on old patterns and assume that history will repeat itself perfectly, because the market has a way of evolving and finding new ways to surprise even the most experienced chart analysts and technical experts. I've been talking to several high-level traders in the space, and the consensus is that the liquidity pools sitting below the current price are just too tempting for the market to ignore for much longer. These pools represent billions of dollars in potential liquidations that would provide the fuel for a massive move in either direction. But usually, the market likes to take the elevator down before it takes the stairs back up. If you are holding XRP in a cold wallet, you might feel safe, but you still need to be aware of the market value of your assets so you don't panic when you see the headlines flashing across your phone during the middle of the night. Knowledge is your best defense against the volatility, and understanding the mechanics of why a death wick happens can help you stay calm while everyone else is losing their minds and selling their bags at a massive loss. The role of the SEC and the ongoing legal uncertainty continues to be the dark cloud hanging over every single price movement, and any minor filing or rumor can send the price spiraling or surging in an instant. This lack of a definitive conclusion has created a coiled spring effect where the energy is building up with nowhere to go, and when that spring finally releases, the move is going to be violent and swift. We are currently seeing the volatility index for XRP creeping up to levels that suggest a major breakout or breakdown is imminent within the next few days or weeks at the very most. It's not a matter of if it happens, but when. And the charts are screaming that the when is much closer than most people are willing to admit to themselves as they check their apps every 5 minutes. Furthermore, we have to consider the role of institutional adoption and whether or not the big banks are waiting for this final flush to occur before they finally step in and provide the massive buy pressure we've all been waiting for. It's a well-known secret that big players don't like to buy into strength. They like to buy into extreme weakness and maximum pain, which a death wick provides in abundance. If you see a massive drop followed by an immediate high-volume recovery, that is the clearest sign possible that the institutions have entered the building and are scooping up everything the retail public just threw away. Being able to identify that moment is what separates the successful investors from the ones who end up as exit liquidity for the smartest money in the room, and we are here to make sure you stay on the right side of that equation. As we move closer to the end of this current market structure, the noise is only going to get louder, and the warnings are going to become more frequent as the tension reaches a breaking point for the XRP price action. You need to be skeptical of any influencer telling you that it's only up from here without acknowledging the massive risks that are clearly visible on the technical timeframes we are analyzing today. Our goal here at Today Assets Report is to give you the unvarnished truth, even when it's not what you want to hear, because protecting your capital is more important than confirming your biases in a market this dangerous. The death wick is coming, and while it might be the final one before a new era for XRP, it is going to be a brutal test of resolve for everyone involved in this ecosystem. Make sure you have your notifications turned on and you are subscribed to the channel because things are moving at lightning speed, and we will be here to provide emergency updates the second we see the breakdown beginning. We are monitoring the whale alerts and the on-chain data around the clock to give you the edge you need to stay ahead of the curve and keep your assets safe during this period of extreme uncertainty. Don't let the fear paralyze you, but don't let greed blind you to the very real possibility of a significant drawdown before the ultimate moonshot happens, as both emotions are equally dangerous in the crypto space. Stay disciplined, keep your eyes on the levels we discussed, and remember that the market is a device for transferring money from the impatient to the patient, especially during events as dramatic as the one we are anticipating. We are going to be keeping a very close eye on the 4-hour candle closes today to see if the support holds or if we start to see the first signs of the cascade that leads to the death wick scenario we've been breaking down. It's a high-stakes game of financial chess, and right now the bears are making a very aggressive move that requires a calculated and calm response from anyone holding XRP in their portfolio. Thank you for tuning in to this urgent update, and we will be back very soon with more data-driven analysis to help you navigate these turbulent waters with confidence and clarity. The final countdown for this price movement has begun, and you cannot afford to look away now that the stakes have never been higher for the future of your digital asset holdings and your overall financial strategy. Would you like me to create a thumbnail concept or a list of tags for this YouTube script?